Welcome to Deadly Match, a murder mystery by Kelly Marshall. The stars of our story are Seattle homicide detectives Nick Winston and his partner Pat Strom. The two detectives toil through Seattle's dark underbelly, searching for killers who strangle, stab, or shoot their victims. The detectives are an odd couple. He's straight, she's gay. He's a charmer, she's no BS. They chide and criticize each other, but when the chips are down, Winston and Strom are back to back, protecting Seattle from criminals with murder on their minds. Here's Deadly Match. Well, stilettos were a non-starter, that's for sure. I tried on an attractive pair at Nordstrom. Not only did the $450 price tag choke me, but my ankles collapsed in opposite directions as soon as I stood. Picture, if you will, Mel Gibson in the 2000 romantic comedy, What Women Want. When he first stepped into a pair of spiked heels, I was lucky I didn't get a sprain. Karina collapsed into a fit of laughter and dropped into the customer chair. The sales clerk gave her a snooty, "What's your problem?" I told the customer service snob to find me something feminine in a shorter heel. My wardrobe was almost complete, and I'd put the finishing touches to my profile on the Meet Your Match website. It wasn't live yet. I wanted to fine-tune the details to entice the right kind of man. I continued to monitor the four men I'd chosen just to make sure they were still available. Like the Tinder hookup site, I assumed Meet Your Match was not designed for anyone looking for a spouse. Rather, it appeared to be an online place to find one-night stands, so chances are the members all stayed available permanently. I took a deep breath and pushed the publish button. Showtime! Within 5 minutes, I had a bite. I clicked on the thumbnail picture and the guy's site opened up. He looked the part. A tight t-shirt accentuated his six-pack and tan biceps bulged at the sleeves. He sported a full head of dark hair, attractive with sides shorn short and a gelled muss-up on top. A designer stubble beard framed his chin. I wouldn't say it to Karina, but he had a nice package, that's for sure. Casual with a touch of urban cool. Packin' Pete, he called himself. Wonder what he was packing. I responded to his inquiry and played coy. He pressed for a date. Determined to seek out all of my selections first, I put him off temporarily. He remained polite, promised to reconnect in a couple of weeks. He seemed too laid back to be put in the serial killer column, but according to the FBI, that type of murderer was very hard to define. I sent an invite to one of my professional choices, a small business owner from Tacoma. No Adonis here. I described Tom Jarrett as plain, rather unremarkable, but his eyes were the reason I selected him. They were mean. They had that cold stare that gave me a shiver. I'd make sure to carry my piece on my date with Tom, just in case things got feisty. I studied the FBI playbook on serial killers. Here's what they wrote. There are no specific combination of traits or characteristics shown to differentiate serial killers from other violent offenders. There's no generic template for a serial killer. Serial killers were driven by their own unique motives or reasons. So basically, the guy I was searching for could look and act like the attractive and charming Ted Bundy, or, conversely, like the plain, soft-spoken Gary Ridgway, the Green River Killer. The proverbial needle in a haystack was child's play, next to my task. Eyes fried from all-day computer work, I shut it down and called Tandy. Her usual sweet southern drawl showed the strain of her worry about Nick when she answered. "Yeah? How is he, Tandy?" She emitted a deep, heavy sigh and answered, "The same." "Have the doctors offered any new information?" "No. He could wake up at any moment or spend the rest of his life like this." My heart clenched for her and for me, two women who loved Nick unconditionally and both shattered by his loss. This was surely like a death, unless a miracle happened. I offered my help once again, but I knew work was going to ramp up now that my profile was live on Meet Your Match, and my time would be limited. I told her I could come sit with Nick for a couple of hours in the early morning, and Karina would commit to coming evenings after work at the library. She accepted the help. I need more rest. I'd like to sleep, but I only doze off 2 or 3 hours at a time, and it's simply not enough. I encouraged her to talk, and she did open up and spoke nonstop for about a half hour. I tried not to advise her because, I just didn't have any good answers for her. Eventually, Tandy said she had to go. Her eyes were getting sleepy and she wanted to catch some Z's while her body begged for sleep. Me too. I felt weary and my body cried out to be prone. When I woke the following morning, I shook Karina from her slumber. We had a quick cereal and banana breakfast, and she headed for work while I began research on one Thomas Anthony Jarrett. The computer and phone had replaced shoe leather as a means of background research. Born and raised in Tacoma, records show he assumed the family business, a restaurant in University Place called the Corner Diner. Yelp gave it 5 stars for its large breakfast scrambles and loaded monster burgers with home fries. Well, at least I might get a good meal for starters. An alert to the lower right on my computer advised me that a message had been left on Meet Your Match. I shouted out, "Woohoo!" when I discovered the note was from Tom Jarrett. I scanned his likes and dislikes and jotted down a few of his favorite songs and activities. He liked golf, movies, candlelight dinners, and classic rock. On my site, I identified myself as Sherry Norman, a real estate broker with Keller Williams. I figured being a broker would give me odd times during the day to be available. Jarrett had left his phone number. He answered the phone, "Corner Diner." His businesslike voice morphed into a smooth, inviting tone. He complimented me on my photos, then cut to the chase. "I'd love to meet you this week," he said. "I got something going on for Friday, but I'm going to cancel it. I just can't wait to meet you." I imagined the drool dripping off his chin. Let me check my dance card." "Huh?" he said. Okay, so I wasn't dealing with a guy with much of a cultural background. I told him I could manage Friday night. "What would you like to do?" He chuckled. "Well, I don't think I can answer that honestly, but let's start with dinner and just see where it goes from there." How did women stomach these guys? 7:30-ish is good for me, I told him. "I'd like to pick you up," he said. No. Let's meet out in front of the Art Museum on Pacific. I'm driving a blue Prius." "My ride's better," he bragged. "Well, mine's safer, so I'll see you then." I hung up quickly. I wasn't looking forward to kissing that frog, and there wasn't a doubt he would try. I filled my week with research on men and a few brave women seeking out dates. I did background checks and searched NCIC just to see if I could find any matches. You just never know. As I got ready for my date, I wiggled into my uncomfortable, barely there underwear. How do women do this? One of my new dresses proved shorter than I'd remembered, and I made a mental note to cross my legs good and tight. The shoes were a compromise, no stilettos, but just enough height and spike to kick the guy if he got out of hand. I pinned my long curly wig on and plastered on plenty of makeup. I tucked my .380 pistol in the zipper portion of my purse. A girl always has to be prepared. My wife lovingly said, "You look like a streetwalker." I kissed her on the nose and said, "Thank you, love. Don't wait up." "Are you kidding me? You better call me as soon as you ditch that bum. Remember, my phone will be on all the time, and my team is following me." Her eyes told me she feared for me, but I was confident in my team and my own abilities. Jarrett was waiting in front of the museum when I turned into the lot. He walked over to my parking space and opened the door for me before I had a chance to touch the inside door handle. "Hello, beautiful." I smothered a laugh. "Nice to meet you, Tom. You're quite the gentleman." "You're one classy lady." I gave him my best Mona Lisa smile. I glanced across the street and spotted Stubbs dressed as a bum in baggy sweatpants leaning against the building. Jarrett and I walked 4 blocks to the Melting Pot, a popular fondue restaurant. He kept his hand cupped on my elbow as we walked. Rather than gentlemanly, I felt the behavior controlling and damned uncomfortable. The single-story building appeared inviting, and I found my stomach growling for sustenance. I was hungry. He ordered the big-ticket item on the menu for both of us to impress me. The lobster indulgence, it was called. First I was piqued because he'd ordered for me, but damn, I have to admit, it tasted pretty fine. Of course, as hungry as I was, Kentucky Fried Chicken and mashed potatoes would have satisfied me. I listened to his story. Divorced, the ex was a bitch, of course, and robbed him blind. He had 2 kids, both in college. They lived at home with him, but that's not a problem. He grinned ghoulishly. "They're gone all the time. I have plenty of privacy," he said. I stabbed aggressively into my lobster. Juice splashed on my face. "Here, let me get that for you." He reached over to dab my chin, but I beat him to it and swiped the moisture away. "How about you?" he wanted to know. "Happily divorced and living the life. You know." I offered him nothing more. "You're secretive." I shrugged. "Just happy with my life." The meal seemed to last for effing ever. He poured several glasses of wine, but after one, I covered my hand over my glass each time he leaned over to pour more. He was toasted by the time the meal was over. "Want to stop for a drink?" he asked. "Sorry, I have an early showing tomorrow. I need my beauty sleep." He frowned his disappointment. "Well, maybe next time." Sure. This time I had to hold on to his arm to keep him from stumbling over his feet as we walked back to our cars. He looked at me with a drunk, slap-happy grin. Sure you can drive, Tom? You could be a good friend and drive me home. Damn it, me and my big mouth? Sure. Stubbs kept me in sight as I poured Tom into my Prius. I asked for directions to his house, and Tom directed me to a place on Browns Point. I looked at the house as I drove into the driveway. Impressive. You know, honey, you should come inside, he said. It's beautiful. What was it with this guy? Must have been the spelling bee champ as a kid or something. Sorry, remember that early appointment I have? Oh, yeah, that's right, he slobbered. I'd barely turned the car off when I felt his hand push beneath my dress and grab the lace of my panties. Ooh, nice, he moaned. He burped as he spoke, and a foul odor exploded in the car. I grasped his fingers and bent two of them back far enough to hear one crack. He screeched several obscenities. Tom, you're not playing nice on the first date. Please get out of my car. You're a cold bitch, you know that? So I've been told before. Now go. He struggled with the handle, but managed to get his body out of the passenger side and stumbled to the house. I backed out of his driveway as he struggled to find the right key to open his door. I called Karina and told her I was on my way home. One frog down and a whole swamp to go. Deadly Match is the fifth story in the Winston and Strawn Murder Mystery series. You'll find links to paperbacks and ebook versions of the previous mysteries on my website, kellymarshallbooks.com. Stop by and leave a comment. I love connecting with my mystery fans. Come back for the next episode of Deadly Match 2 weeks from now. Till then, stay safe.